Welcome to the Eat for Endurance podcast, where we explore the connection between nutrition, performance, and health for busy, active people. I'm Claire Shorenstein, a sports dietitian and endurance athlete, and in every episode, I share evidence-based guidance, inspiring athlete stories, and practical tips on a wide variety of nutrition topics so that you can feel better, crush your endurance goals, and thrive as a human being. Today, I'm chatting with fellow dietitian Laura Ligos, aka the Sassy Dietitian, about immune health for active people. You may remember Laura from episode 126, so not that long ago, where we covered fertility and hormone health for athletes. That was a really awesome episode, so if you haven't listened yet, go back and check it out. In today's episode, Laura and I are discussing what athletes can do, within their power, of course, to stay healthy from a diet, lifestyle, and supplement standpoint, what to do if you're around someone who is sick, but you're not sick, not yet at least, what to do and what not to do if you do end up getting sick, how all of this might differ depending on what type of illness you have, so like an upper respiratory illness versus, for example, a stomach bug, and we finish things up by addressing foodborne illness and how to support health while traveling. I really wish I'd done this interview many months ago because I know my family got hit hard with illness back in October and November, and I know many of you also have been struggling. But you know what? We're still deep in the sick season. Yay. So I hope you find this episode helpful. Also, just an FYI, we chat about a well-known study with a J-curve that you may have seen before. I've linked to it in the show notes, and I also noted the study's limitations and answered a few questions that we had in our conversation that we didn't actually know the answer to at the time. So in case you're curious, go check out the show notes. All right, here is my chat with Laura all about immune health for active people. Laura, welcome back to the Eat for Endurance podcast. I know you were just here, but so glad to have you back. How's everything
Thanks
going
for
today?
having me.
Yeah.
It's going, I feel like it's already mid-January and we hit the ground running. So
Yeah. So if people remember, you guys, you guys meaning you and your business partner, Daniel Kepix, were on to talk about fertility and hormone health. That was episode 126, not long ago in October. But for anyone who didn't listen to the episode, but also go listen to the episode, but maybe you can just give a brief intro on yourself if people don't know you.
yeah, I'm Laura. I'm a registered dietitian. That's always hard for me to say. Weird. I've been doing this for almost 14 years, which is insane. I can't possibly be that old. And I have a background in sports nutrition. I was a sports dietitian for a while, transitioned more into women's health because I realized that most of the women I were talking to, whether they were athletes or just fitness enthusiasts, needed more support and weren't getting the support they needed. I myself was a former athlete and mom and just felt kind of neglected in the women's health space. So that's really where I've landed, is just kind of helping women across the life cycle improve their health and relationship with food and body and all the above. And I have 2 little germ factories at home, my 2 little kids. So
yes.
It's perfect for what we're talking about today because I'm living and breathing that life.
Yes. So our topic today is immune health, especially for active people, for athletes. And I wish I had done this like months ago because I don't know about you, but back in October, we had 5 weeks where literally someone was like very ill, just nonstop illness for 5 weeks. It was so rough. And my daughter had walking pneumonia, like pneumonia was going around. It was just the absolute worst. So I know I'm a little late to the game with this topic, but better late than never. And it's January, so we're still really, maybe this will be coming out in February, but we're still in the thick of
we're still in the thick
season.
of it. Yeah,
oh yeah.
It's not ending anytime soon.
Yeah. No light at the end of the tunnel yet.
No.
So yeah, for anyone who has been hit hard with illness, with or without children, because obviously people who travel or just live outside their home, I mean, you are exposed to things. So yeah, this episode is for you, which is pretty much for any human being because we all get sick. Yeah. So I think my goal for today is really to first go from like a prevention standpoint, like what can we do within our power? Because obviously there's only so much we can do. What can we do to kind of stay healthy? And there's a lot that we can do. So we're going to kind of go from there. And then we're going to kind of just progressively get into the thick of your exposed to someone who's sick, and then you are sick, and really exploring all of this from a diet, lifestyle, and supplement standpoint, because I think everyone is really quick to rush into supplements, and that's not where we start necessarily. Not to say we don't use them. They could be helpful in certain situations, but they are not harmless, and we want to be very intentional. So that's kind of the outline of today's show, and I'm sure we'll be having lots of tangents as we always do. But yeah, let's kind of start from that prevention standpoint of what can we do. First, let's talk about diet. What can we do from a dietary standpoint to stay healthy and feel our best?
I mean, I think it's important. I think I tell every single client this, that 70% of your immune system is located in your gut. And so when we're talking about gut, like immune health, we're also talking about gut health. They don't live exclusively from one another. They are heavily integrated. So understanding that good digestive health is good immune health. And also the gut has a gut-brain axis. So if you are stressed, that's like step number one. And stress can come from everywhere, right? And diet is one of them. And diet is not that I want people to feel like they're trying to control something, but it is a controllable, right? Especially I work with a lot of moms, and sleep is variable because of kids, but food is something that is more controllable. So eating well-balanced meals, not skipping meals, making sure that you're eating enough throughout the day, because what happens is if you're not eating enough, you can produce more cortisol, and cortisol suppresses the immune system because you don't need your immune system to run away from a bear, but you do need your immune system to show up for work and show up for life and have a good life. So fruits and vegetables are huge, right? I know that the dietary guidelines recently came out and they're taking a backseat to some other foods, but fruits and vegetables are huge. Anything with fiber, most Americans are not hitting their fiber goals. I want people mostly between 30 and 40 grams. You hit enough fiber goals, you're going to have better digestive health, better microbiome health. And that is hard to do when we're not prioritizing our health. But things like beans and legumes and frozen vegetables and frozen fruit, everyone can have those on board and easily add those to meals. Obviously, vitamin C gets a big tout when it comes to immune function. You can get vitamin C through fruits and vegetables, which I know is not as fun as taking a fun, fizzy, colorful drink, but you can get actual vitamin C from your nutrition. Protein is really helpful because protein helps to keep you satiated and manage that blood sugar balance. Blood sugar I feel like I'm going in all different directions here, but it's all connected. There's nothing I probably say this every day in my practice of it's all connected. You can't just think of things in isolation. You have to understand that what you do, it's kind of like what's it called? A chain of events, right?
Yep.
If you skip a meal, your body's going to be stressed because you're not feeding it. It's going to increase cortisol, which increases blood sugar. When we increase blood sugar, we tend to go on a blood sugar roller coaster ride. When that happens, it creates more stress in the body, which creates more stress on the digestive system, suppresses that immune system, and then leaves you more vulnerable to things like illness should you be exposed to it. So that's why not skipping meals, eating regularly timed meals, every 3 to 4 hours. Protein and fiber are huge, and vitamin C rich foods, which fall into that fiber category, which is great. And then the other big thing is hydration, making sure you're actually hydrating, because being dehydrated is another stress on your body and also can impact the motility of your digestion. So slowing things down or speeding it up. So when I'm thinking nutrition, those are where my head goes of is the person even doing that on a daily basis? And I'm sure you see this too, Claire, but everyone wants to jump to the supplements, but so many people are not doing what I just said, because that's not the sexy, fun stuff. It's I just had a client today tell me, she's I don't know why I can't get the basics down. And she was I feel like at some point it has to get easier. And I'm why are we striving for nutrition to be easy? Why, you think about a workout, and most people don't assume that their workout's going to be easy just because they've been training for years and years and years. They know that it's probably going to be hard. Is it easier in some senses because they used to not be able to do an air squat, and now they can do a back squat. They used to only run a mile. Now they can run 25 miles, right? There are obviously ways that it gets easier, but it never gets easy. And I think we have to also understand that too, that it takes work to have health. And that's not a bad thing. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple, but we still have to prioritize it.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, because I guess when I think about does nutrition get easier, I might think, well, maybe some things feel a little bit more second nature, you are in the habit of eating in the morning versus you're just always really adjusted to not eating for many hours, right? I just got a client who never eats until 11 or 12. And that's just how it's literally always been for her entire life. And so that's a big adjustment, right? So maybe in the beginning, it's oh, this feels really hard because my body's not used to it. And then over time, you might it might get easier. But I agree. Like, yeah, you definitely have to always be putting in the work and thinking about things. Like, I also had a same client who's like, I really don't want to think about food. I don't want to have to like think about food very much. I'm like, well, unfortunately, you have to think about food. That's not really an option. Like, you can't expect to improve any of the things you're working on and not think about food. I don't want you obsessing over food. I don't want it to be super stressful and whatever, but it might feel like a lot of work in the beginning. And then maybe once you learn some basics and you learn what foods provide, which types of nutrients and all of that, then it will become easier. But yes, I totally agree with what you're saying there. The only thing I would add, well, number one, hydration, exactly. And just remembering like fluids, it's how we get, we're getting nutrients to our cells and also removing waste products. And so it's like we obviously really need enough fluids. And of course, as athletes, if you are sweating and moving more, you do have increased hydration needs. So that is super duper important. And also for gut health, and just like underfueling, like how that affects the gut. So really, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you guys have heard me talk about, and my guests talk about all the time about, if you are underfueling, that causes GI issues because, gut motility slows down and you might be putting out, fewer enzymes, and just like everything kind of gets a bit messed up. And so that in itself is, yes, a form of stress on the body, but it's also affecting your gut health. And then, as you just pointed out, like the gut really influences our immune and inflammatory responses. So there really is a lot of like local immune activity in the gut, but the gut also is influencing systemic immunity. So if we're thinking about immune health, yes, gut health is extremely important. And not only like what you're eating, but fueling adequately is so essential. And it's really easy for active people. Again, whether or not you're training for a race, it doesn't matter. Your body doesn't know or care what you're doing. It just knows that you're demanding energy from it. If you're not giving it enough, then it's really going to be downregulating a lot of these things that are really essential to overall health and specifically also your immune function. That's a really important one. Moving to exercise, and we can talk about other lifestyle factors, but exercise specifically, I think is important to call out here because exercise is also a form of stress on the body, and overtraining really impacts immune function. So I'm not sure if you want to talk about anything else relating to exercise specifically, whether it's from what can benefit immunity, because I'm thinking of a graph in my head that I've seen where
There's
it's like
J-curve.
The J-curve. Thank you. Yes. I was like, what am I thinking
It's a very famous, maybe not famous. I feel like if you're in the sports world, it's very famous. And it's more or less showing that if you're sedentary, there is increased risk of upper respiratory illness. Yes. And then the curve goes down with increased movement and exercise. And then it actually goes even higher than the sedentary people when we increase frequency and intensity. And this is just research done on upper respiratory infections, but that's the majority of what people are dealing with, right? Stomach bugs are like one of those things where you're kind of just lucky if you miss it, you know? Whereas like, I
Wash
think,
your hands.
like I just think that like now having kids, I always like wondered, I'm like, why do people get stomach bugs? And then I had kids who stick their hands in my mouth when I'm not looking and
they stick their hands in their butts. And
right. Like there's only so much you can do to prevent stomach bugs, but with upper respiratory illness, there's a ton that you can do, kind of like we're talking with this prevention, and exercise is one of them. So it's not saying, I think when people hear you say like you're working out too much, they hear you say stop working out. And that's not the recommendation. The recommendation is finding that healthy balance for the season that you're in. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's like this perfect amount of exercise for everybody. It's a perfect amount for you. So the mom who isn't sleeping 8 hours per night and who is stressed because she's heading back to work and trying to breastfeed and whatever, like she might need to just walk, and that will help her prevent illness related to inflammation. Whereas the, 25-year-old who can sleep 9 hours a night is fueling enough and, doesn't have a lot of responsibilities. Obviously there are some, I'm not trying to like minimize that, but they might be able to train for a marathon and that might be the sweet spot for them. And so it's understanding not just like, okay, I need to moderate my exercise or my fitness. It's like, what does that mean for me? And that's something I have found because I work with women across the life cycle, I found women struggle with that because we tend to have more changes in seasons, whereas a lot of men, I'm not saying all, but a lot of men, there's more constant, right? They're not having monthly cycles. They're never getting pregnant. They're never being postpartum. So there's a lot more steady eddy for them. Whereas for women, we get all the different roller coaster rides through puberty, through perimenopause and menopause. So it's, that if you want to link that to, I think I have the study. It's a very like well-known study, and it's just like a good graphic. I think I send it to a lot of my clients to help them understand that it's not no exercise. Like exercise is so beneficial on so many different levels. It helps with insulin sensitivity, which then helps with blood sugar balance, which helps with that cortisol response. It's all connected, but too much of a good thing actually can put you at higher risk of becoming more ill, not just being more susceptible to illness, but having a harder time recovering from it as well, which is also annoying, right? You don't be sick for weeks on end.
Yeah. I looked at the study like a million years ago, and I don't remember all the details of it. Do you remember if like at higher levels of exercise, were they fueling adequately for what they were doing?
I don't know if that information is there. My guess would be no.
Yeah, because the other piece of this, a lot of my listeners are endurance athletes. And so again, like, I'm certainly not saying don't go out and train for your ultra race or all that kind of stuff. Of course, like I'm all for it, but are you fueling appropriately? And so that becomes like the bigger question, because the reality might be, okay, if you are putting loads of training stress on your body, it might just be that you are at higher risk for illness from that. But obviously, if you are fueling appropriately for everything that you're doing, and again, that's going to take a lot of work to kind of really make sure that's locked in, then the risk of illness and injury and all that other bad stuff you don't want goes way down. I'm at least from my experience and working with people and everything. But yeah, I'm really curious I don't know what the research kind of says on if you're kind of up in those levels where they find that increased risk of illness, if you are fueling adequately, how does that play out? I'm curious about that.
I don't think they adjusted for that. I'd have to go back in there and look. But if you think about it, we talked about like stress, it's just a bucket of stress, right? Yeah. Like if you think about the bucket, and it's kind of thinking about how many stressors are in the bucket, right? If you're training for an ultra marathon and you're fueling yourself appropriately, you're lowering the stress load because you're not now under fueling and training heavy, right? And so I think it's just a matter of then also looking at what are the other stressors, right? Do you have young kids? Do you have aging parents? Do you have really like high work demands? Like, do you live in a bad relationship? Whatever it might be, there's so many different stressors. So if you can zoom out, as I tell all my clients, like we can sit here and pick apart every part of your life. But if you can zoom out and look at that load and say, okay, truly, honestly, what stressors am I dealing with? And what stressors have I dealt with? Like I work with a lot of former athletes. I don't know how I think they just like find me because I was a former athlete. And not to say I don't like currently do fitness, but I'm not like training for anything. And I swear all of us are not worse off, but we tend to be coming at a much more depleted level and a much more stressed level because of, I don't know how you were when you were younger, but like nobody was talking about nutrition. Nobody was talking about recovery. Nobody cared about that stuff. So like, what did I do? I was eating peanut M&Ms as fuel for swimming. Like not helpful, like probably better than nothing. But like,
I was like, there could be worse.
It's not awful, but like there's so much more I could have been doing.
There was less available back then though. Like you have to remember,
yes, nobody knew.
It's like night and day in terms of the nutrition landscape. Yes. Like, I don't know.
But I think it's also thinking about not just your athletic history, but your trauma history, your, what other things you've lived through. I mean, just being alive in today's current society, right? Yeah. And it's taking all of that into account, not to make yourself feel bad or say, I can't do anything, but to understand. I think sometimes just understanding and know it's more about knowing your stress as opposed to having no stress. And when you can recognize that, you can have a better idea of what support do I need to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to live. And that might mean for someone who's training for an endurance event that they just have less training load or they have less races, like less frequency, right? It doesn't mean no. It just means like, you might not be able to handle the 3 races a year that your friend can because she didn't have trauma growing up and she never ran growing up, right? And so I think that's the big topic is just knowing that stress load so that you can manage it. And the goal is to do the adequate amount so that you can continue doing the amount you want to do. Not to limit yourself because you're weak and we tell you no, but because you don't want to do too much and then not be able to do anything at all.
Yeah. And I think this is also where, not everyone I work with has a coach, but many people do. And this is where a good coach is really important. A coach who recognizes that rest days are important, and understanding your individual life, because a good coach will, of course, treat you as a unique human and not just give you some sort of cookie cutter plan, but really, kind of ask about the rest of your life and how are you responding to training and are you recovering, and obviously nutrition and sleep and all these other things play a huge role, but yeah, just kind of is this kind of training even realistic for you, and is it something that works in your life? I know for myself, I've just been totally taking a step back the last 2 years, and it started from injury. I had a couple hip injury type things, or it was hamstring and hip. And I had just been trying to do too much. I was doing like 50K after 50K because I'd taken such a long break after having kids from ultra running. And I was just so excited to do it. I did a little too much, or maybe it was just like my body just wasn't like, it was too much stress. I think it really was exactly that. My kids were little. It was, coming off the pandemic, I moved from New York, and there were just so many things going on, not enough sleep, I was working really hard in my business, and my body was just like, after a while, nope. and it's been over 2 years that I'm just kind of like, you know what? I don't actually want to do too much. I'm just going to chill and just do what feels good to me. And so, yeah, I'm not saying that as like, oh, just quit, obviously like do what feels good to you, but it's also okay to like take a break and, tune into like the season of life you're in and just be like, maybe I need to just like chill for a little bit and then I can ramp back up. So I don't know. So yeah, stress is huge. It's coming from all over, and there's only so much you can do about it. I think especially if you have kids or aging parents or whatever the case may be, whatever, you've chosen or have dealt with, like there's only so much stress management you can do. You can't just, I think I said this in the last podcast. It's like one of my clients, we were talking about stress management. She's like, I keep trying to manage my stress, but I just can't get rid of my kids, and it's just like, yeah, that's yes, like, it's not realistic to like, not everyone can, meditate in the morning or do whatever. I don't know. It's just, so yeah, it's like carving out moments for yourself and doing your best to, maybe it is reducing how much training you're doing. It's making sure you're eating enough. It's kind of controlling the controllables, and then whatever you can't, you're just doing your best. So stress is always an ongoing work of progress.
Well, it is. And I think something I see with my clients is, and I know I've been in this position too, of like the stress management becomes the stress because you're now trying to like add in breath work and meditation and yoga. Now it's like just another thing on the to-do list. Yeah. And I just tell a lot of my clients now, like, think about what helps you exhale. Like, we just spend so much time so tight and like pent up. Like, what helps you exhale? Is it going for a walk? Is it just stepping outside for 5 seconds? Is it calling a friend, texting a friend, venting to somebody? Like, it doesn't have to be this big to-do list. It can truly just be like, is there a way for you to exhale? Because when you say that, people are like, oh my God, like I'm like literally sitting here like so tense and I don't have any space to exhale. And that looks different in every season of life. With young kids, that literally might mean literally stepping outside and like not having someone touch you. When you're older, it might mean training for a marathon, right? Like, and it's understanding like what actually is going to help fill your cup and fill that whatever stress management need there is without making it a to-do list, because that is kind of like defeats the purpose of doing it.
Totally. Yeah. And I know for me, I've really gotten into walking, and just, it can be like the shortest walk. It can be like a 10-minute walk. I'm really fortunate that I live really close to the beach, and yet it takes a little while to get down to the beach, but these beautiful cliffs are like across the street, and I can just go for a nice walk and stare at the ocean. And then when I don't walk, there's just like, I feel like everyone has a spot on their couch or somewhere where it's just like their spot. Yes. I just like the comfiest spot with the coziest blanket and some tea on my couch, and I just like kind of curl up, and it's so nice. So I always think it's important to have an exercise related thing and a non-exercise related thing, because you can't always move. What about, so sleep, obviously that's a big one. There's only so much we can do. I mean, I don't even know if there's anything to say there, because obviously, I think at this point, most people know that sleep is crucial for pretty much everything: performance, health, all health factors, immunity for sure. We're just going to do our best to get it. I mean, is there anything else you want to say there?
I mean, I think once again, just being realistic, like if it's not a season where you can get 7-9 hours of sleep, then something else has to give. Whereas, the other side of it is it quality sleep that you're getting? And nutrition can play a huge role in that. Eating enough
Yes.
can, and I'm sure you've talked about this ad nauseum, but like it's all connected. So even if you're only able to get 6 to 7 hours of sleep because of whatever you have going on in your life, how can you optimize that? And that's making sure that, you're reducing blue light, you're not watching news right before you go to bed, you're eating enough so that you're not having a blood sugar roller coaster ride overnight. You're having dark blackout curtains if need be. You're not on your phone in your bed. You're not, if you are someone who snores, improving nasal hygiene and looking into sleep apnea diagnoses. Like there's so many things that you can do to improve the quality, even if quantity isn't necessarily achievable in the current season of life. Because listen, like I have young kids, I totally understand. There's just some nights where like it's not within my control. And then I think it's so hard. And I struggled with this for many years. And I think I'm in a really healthy place with exercise now, but I really struggled post athletic career of understanding like it's okay to take a rest day, even if it wasn't a planned rest day. And that was growth for me. And I think for a lot of my clients of understanding, because I spent so many years being like, pain is gain, suck it up, like whatever the old mentality was. Yeah. And that I think is important too. And knowing that like not every day has to be a rest day, and you have to start listening to your body and understand, okay, did you get poor sleep? How do you feel? If you feel good, start the workout. And if you feel okay, keep going. Make sure you're fueling and doing all other things. If you start your workout and feel like crap, okay, go for a walk, go lay down. Like it's having that discretion and knowing that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be either or. It can be yes and. There's so much opportunity. And just because you rested today doesn't mean you're resting for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I totally am right there with you on that one. I really I have a loose plan. I mean, of course, I'm not training for anything right now, but I have a loose plan of what I'd like to do the next day or across the week. And I every morning I evaluate, because if my 6-year-old who's been waking us up in the middle of the night and then wake us up again in the morning, which she has been doing for months, although it's been getting a little better. But if she's done that, like I might not be up for that. And another thing I think that I've certainly overcome myself is I would always be like in my mind, okay, 1 rest day is fine, but 2 is not, back to back. And it's like, now I'm like, it does not matter. It's like, if I'm feeling like garbage, like I'm not going to muscle through a workout. That's stupid. But yeah, maybe I can still get outside and go for a walk on the beach or, whatever, do something that's going to help me get some fresh air and feel better. So I think, staying kind of in tune with that and adjusting is important, because again, if you're just pushing all the time, that is going to be a recipe for getting sick. Yeah. Making yourself a little more susceptible to whatever germs are floating around.
Which I think is a good point too, of like using that discretion within the season that you're in, right? So like between October and March, it might be more of a time to listen to those like rest cues, because you're likely going to be more exposed to germs. Whereas in the summer, I'm not saying completely ignore your body, but you might be able to push through a little bit more knowing that exposure is going to be down too. So I think it's understanding. And honestly, like, I don't think enough people lean into like circadian rhythm stuff, but there's a reason that when it's dark out, you want to rest. You want to be in your bed or on your couch. Like, I also think it's okay to understand that, like, unless you have a race that you're training for or an event you're training for, in the winter months, like, lean into going to bed earlier or like snuggling on the couch when it's dark and rainy out. Like, I think it's okay too to recognize that, like, you're likely going to want to be more active in the summer because there's more daylight. You're also likely going to be less active when there's less daylight. It's just the body's natural inclination. So leaning into that too, if able, I think is worthwhile as well.
I mean, I think you can do both. I personally like to be active in the winter. I mean, okay, I live in California, so it's I'm like, everyone's gonna be like, come on, Claire. But even when I was on the East Coast, I still snuggle on my couch at night. I do go to bed earlier because I'm always woken up early by my kids. But, I still like to work out. So again, it's like all about figuring out what works for you. And I do think a lot of listeners are training for something. So, but if you're not, I agree. It's like, I think everyone kind of needs some downtime, and not just like 2 weeks of an off season, but like some proper downtime to unwind from things. In terms of, still from this prevention standpoint, I know you called out a few nutrients, vitamin C from foods, if you're eating animal products, you're getting zinc, like there's other things, but are there any other nutrients you want to call out specifically, micronutrients especially, or any supplements? Like, do we want to talk about magnesium for sleep or kind of anything else that people might want to incorporate potentially?
I feel like it's so variable.
I know,
I feel like actually if you're talking vitamins, vitamin A and D are really important. Vitamin D we know it acts as a hormone in the body, can definitely help with immune function. Obviously, it's going to be dependent where you live. I live in upstate New York, the complete opposite side of the country. So like, I think everyone here is deficient in vitamin D, no matter how much time they get outside. So having, I don't know why so many doctors are against doing yearly vitamin D labs, but that can be super supportive. Most of my clients just know that it hits October, they're supplementing with vitamin D until April or May when they start getting sun again. So that can be really supportive, just like long-term. It's not going to help if you not say it's not going to help if you get sick, but like you don't just start taking it when you get sick. That's not going to really do anything. That's more like overall. Vitamin A can also help support secretory IgA, which is an immune support in the gut. I call them like little bodyguards at the nightclub. They're there to help like fight off things that shouldn't be there. And vitamin A can actually help support that. Vitamin A is going to be found in your animal proteins as well as things like cod liver oil. So if you're someone who only wants to do fish, cod liver oil is actually a great source of it.
But you're talking about retinol, like the active form, not beta carotene.
Beta carotene. Well, I mean, you can get some vitamin A. The conversion is pretty poor. And then if you're already having gut issues, the conversion's even worse. So it's understanding to, do the best you can. If you're someone who is not consuming that, you could look at like some type of multivitamin or prenatal that has vitamin A in it, if that's not something you're able to get through your diet. But that can be really supportive as well. All micronutrients are going to be supportive because they literally work on every aspect of the body. Magnesium can help with so many things. I would say every human that I encounter is probably deficient in magnesium. They say that our soil is more depleted of it, so that makes more sense that even if you are consuming foods that are high in it, like dark leafy green vegetables or nuts and seeds, cocoa, you're likely still not getting enough. And then we also have a higher usage rate of magnesium if we're more stressed, and that stress can come from anywhere. It could be from training, but it could also be from life, kids, the world, whatever. The magnesium definitely can help with so many processes in the body, including sleep, which you mentioned, which then improves sleep, improves overall immunity. So that's like an indirect
magnesium glycinate. FYI.
Yes. There's a few that are really good, but glycinate is probably the most well tolerated. Threonate's pretty good too. Citrate only if you're constipated. Otherwise, you're going to hate us and wonder why you're running to the bathroom. So don't do that.
Yes.
And then zinc, as you mentioned, but we also don't want to overdo zinc because zinc can cause an imbalance in copper as well as vitamin A. So that can cause issues there. So zinc is found in any of your like mollusks, like mussels and oysters and all those types of fish, as well as pumpkin seeds. That's usually what I get most of my clients to eat every day. Just a good source of zinc.
And zinc's also just another animal proteins, right?
But yes, correct.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think most people are going for mollusks or whatever.
No, but they're the best. Literally, I don't know how your brain functions, but like when I go out to eat and like, we don't usually get oysters at home, but like anytime we're on the coast, like we always get oysters. And I'm just like, oh, so much zinc going into my body. Or like I eat a Brazil nut and I'm like, so much selenium. And I'm like, I'm such a nerd. I'm just like, this is so great for my body.
Hey friends, do you ever get back from a long or hard training session and feel like you need to nap or spend the rest of the day on the couch? Are you not performing the way you'd like? Or maybe you're a bit overwhelmed by all the nutrition noise coming at you from all corners of the internet. Whatever struggles you're having, I would love to help. In case you haven't checked it out yet, my website, eatforendurance.com, has tons of freebies, including downloads and blog posts, as well as low-cost resources to support you with whatever you're working on. I also have a monthly membership, Fuel for Life Crew, where you get to ask me your nutrition questions in our private community, attend live monthly calls, connect with other busy athletes like you, and access my entire nutrition library for just $39 a month. And if you'd like to dive deeper and get truly individualized nutrition support, you can check out my 3- and 6-month one-to-one coaching programs. I only accept a limited number of clients to ensure every person receives the individualized attention and depth of support required to create lasting, meaningful change. I have tons of testimonials on my website if you're curious what past clients have to say about our work together, and I also offer free discovery calls to make sure we're the right fit. I am accepting new one-to-one clients this month. I do that on a rolling basis, so reach out. I would love to work with you. Visit eatforendurance.com to grab your free downloads, explore my low-cost resources, sign up for my crew, or learn more about one-to-one nutrition coaching. All right, let's get back to the episode. I was very allergic to shellfish for a really long time. It was so weird. I suddenly got allergic when I was 22, and because I was basically like an anaphylactic shock out of nowhere, and then determined I was allergic. And then within a few years ago, it was determined I am no longer allergic. It's so weird. And the allergist was like, "This sometimes happens," and I'm like, "How?" But I still don't eat them because I'm just like, "No thanks."
Yeah, that's fair. I think I would.
Like, I'm not gonna.
You're like, I don't need that trauma in my life.
I don't like these foods. I don't miss these foods. Like, I'm good. So yes, and just to clarify, we're mostly talking about, like, when we're mentioning these micronutrients, except for vitamin D and the magnesium, for the most part, we're talking about getting these micronutrients through foods. We're not saying, or unless like you're a vegan and you want, you're taking multivitamin to help with the vitamin. For the most part, we're getting these things through foods, unless obviously there's a deficiency or there's something else going on that would warrant supplementation. But cool. Anything else from a prevention standpoint that you think? I mean, I think we covered it, but
I think two things I just thought of are sugar and alcohol. Not necessarily sugar alcohols; those can cause digestive issues. But both of those can be stressors on the body.
Yes.
And alcohol definitely being one of them. It can suppress immune function, not to mention it can impact gut health and liver health, both of which are needed in the immune response. So I'm not saying to never drink, but I just think it's also a part of that stress cup and understanding that drinking, honestly, I tell most people 1 or 2 drinks a week. I know that things have come out that you can drink socially 1 or 2 drinks a day. I don't agree with that. I think that's
it's a social lubricant, Laura. Didn't you know? No comment.
I could go off, and I haven't really been on social media. But I'm like, there's a time where I'm going to lay out. But yes, alcohol is a stressor to the body, and it often impacts sleep as well, which then we've already talked about. Sleep is important for immune function. So it's understanding, once again, stress load, and understanding, like, so many of my clients recognize that, like, a glass of wine just becomes a habit, and we switch it out for like a mocktail. And I know it sounds like so catchy because everyone's doing it right now, and they're totally fine with it because it became more of a ritual, not necessarily something that they needed to get by. And obviously, if you need it to get by, seek help, because that's, not great. But for most people, they're like, it just like became so habitual. And I think for a lot of people, we like habitual things. It's a nice wind down. But honestly, you can replace it with a mocktail, which has things like magnesium in it and vitamin C. And there's so many great recipes out there now. You can have fun with it and improve your health without impacting sleep.
I literally have one every night. Every night I have my pomegranate and seltzer situation, which, I mean, it's so simple. I don't even know if I'd call it a mocktail, but yeah, my beverage.
Yeah, but it like makes it feel fancy when you say it.
It does. It's more exciting than just like water, which I love water, but yeah, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of that. Yeah, sorry, you were about to say about sugar.
Well, then sugar is the other one too. And sugar, do not hear me say that sugar is bad. I'm not demonizing it.
Especially not to athletes. We need sugar, people.
No, yes. But it's understanding how you're utilizing it. So around exercise and around fitness, your body is more sensitive. So it uses it well. But if we're just sitting on the couch and, eating candy before bed, it's likely going to cause a blood sugar response. More cortisol means more blood sugar, means more stress, and it just kind of compounds it. So it's understanding how to use sugar without it becoming your whole life, which honestly, most people who come to me, I feel like, are not overdoing sugar just because of the nature of people who come to me. But in kids, I think it can become a really easy thing to overdo. I see it myself. I'm not saying I'm immune to it either, but there's cupcakes for parties, there's candy for Halloween and Christmas and everything. It kind of just compounds. So I really try, and I know we said we might talk about kids, but with kids, I try to think, especially during those winter months, I let them have the cupcakes and the candy and whatever, because I want them to celebrate and understand how to regulate it for themselves. But then I also make sure that we're pushing fluids, they're drinking enough water. We have protein-rich foods at the other meals and fiber-rich foods at the other meals, and just trying to balance it out so that not every meal is going to be a sugar dump for their little bodies.
Yeah. 2 things. Yeah. The candy at night, it's maybe you're still having dessert, but maybe you're having something else with that. So it's not just this sugar bomb. So it's maybe you're having something with protein in it, or just something to kind of balance it out, because, I don't want to have people not eat their desserts and enjoy their foods either. But it's also understanding how things affect you, because some people, even just eating within an hour bedtime can mess their sleep up. Other people aren't affected. And so kind of just understanding what feels good to you. And just noticing, okay, well, if I eat later at night, Does that impact me at all? Does it not impact me? So it's just kind of everyone doing their little N of one, kind of figuring out
Yes.
what works and what doesn't. And same, with alcohol, like, yeah, it's mindful drinking, just like mindfulness bringing to like how you consume, sweets or whatever else, you'd have that isn't necessarily like the most beneficial to health in the classical sense. And, yeah, you were saying like a bookend or a habitual thing. Like I've had a client who like they would come home from work and just to kind of have that bookend to the day would have a glass of wine while they make dinner because it was just like, whatever. But they realized, oh, wait, I can do this with a glass of herbal tea or a mocktail or something along those lines. It's just they needed something, that ritual to kind of differentiate between that's the end of that day and the beginning of this part of my day. So everyone can kind of explore that in whatever way works.
I thought of one more thing. It's not really nutrition related, but there is a lot of research in basically clearing the sinuses. So nasal sprays, whether it's like a saline, they say hypertonic solutions. There was like a cool research study that came out about it recently about how it can not necessarily prevent all illness, but it can reduce severity or reduce duration, which honestly, same goes for vitamin C and zinc. Neither of them can prevent illness, but they can help reduce severity and duration. So there's also, I use Xlear. It's like Xlear with my kids. It's a xylitol-based spray that's also been shown to cling to some of that bacteria virus and help to flush it out. But that can be really supportive as well too, which isn't necessarily food or nutrition related, but it's just something that like we can do. Bee propolis can be helpful too, which can be found in a spray for kids. Obviously, if you're allergic, not obviously, but if you're allergic to bees or bee pollen, do not use it. But bee propolis has a lot of cool benefits as well too.
Yeah. And then the really obvious, huge one is just hygiene. Maintaining good hygiene. Yes. Like this is the most important thing, like washing your hands.
I don't think people have learned, unfortunately. I don't really understand it, but I'm like, have you ever been in a bathroom and someone just walks out and I'm like, have we not learned?
Yeah.
It's not that hard. It takes literally 20 seconds to wash your hands.
Yeah. I think that, but it's also like, and this is a good segue for our next one, which is, what changes, if anything, if you're around someone who's sick and you're not sick yet? And hopefully will not get sick, but yeah. So hi parents, hi everyone, or traveling or whatever. But yeah, I mean, hygiene is always important, but hand washing and just being careful. I mean, it's with kids, it's so hard. I mean, the number of times my child has sneezed into my mouth, my 6-year-old sucks her thumb and I'll be like cuddling with her and she'll just take her wet thumb and just shove it into my face. I'm just like, oh God. It's just so gross.
You're like, I can feel the illness coming into me.
They're constantly touching their butts and just like wiping their stuff all over me. And then I'll be like just sitting there and they'll just shove their hands in my eyes or try to poke my eye. I mean, it's just, it just never ends.
There's always so much you can do.
The fun
and it's always the
ends.
Mom.
Yeah. Obviously, we try our best. So, but whether it's around the house and, I'm not saying like, we don't have to, I have like flashbacks to COVID times where I just like literally like Clorox wiping all my surfaces. Like you don't need to go insane, obviously, but just, washing your hands and having your kids wash your hands when they get home from school and, whatever else, if you're on public transport or just, just all the things. I think we've gotten in some better habits there, but trying to just maintain them. Sometimes we forget, maybe the bathroom thing you remember, but you just kind of forget other times. So there's that.
I mean, I think the whole point is like, it's okay for the body to get sick. We want the body to get sick 1 to 2 times per year, not gravely ill, but we want the immune system to have some inputs because that's more likely to build a robust immune system. So it's also not saying like, if you get sick, it's your fault for not like washing your hands, but like, the point of all that we just discussed was to help you. Like most of my clients, like I just had a mom tell me this week, we've been working together for 6 months. She's like, I didn't get sick this time. And I'm like, yeah, that's the whole point, to make you more resilient so that you're not getting sick every single illness. Like they said for kids who are young and like their first introduction into like group care, whether it's childcare or school, they're likely to get 8 to 12 viruses a year, which is like insanity. So they're sick every month and it feels like they're sick every day. So there's only so much that you can do. Like you're likely going to get sick more if you're new to childcare, new to school, whatever. But if you can build resiliency in your health, you're less likely to be impacted by every illness that comes your way. So that's really the point, I think, of what we were talking about. And like, you are going to get sick once in a while. That's okay. It's not a failure. It's just is. Like, that's just
how it goes. Yeah. And I think it's not like, we'll be realistic, but it's also like, obviously if you've been training for a race and you get sick, like right before your big race of the year, like that freaking sucks. That's really, really crappy. Or you have a lot going on at work and your kid is home from school and you have no other help. Like I've been there a million times. It really sucks. So like, no one wants to get sick. It's obviously not something we enjoy. So it's like, yeah, what can we do within our power? we haven't even touched on like vaccines and all that, which we don't need to go down that whole road. I'm personally just throwing it out there. Like I get my flu vaccine every year. My kids get their flu vaccine every year. Big fan of that. Obviously there are things I feel like this is too much. I don't even want to talk about vaccines, but I'm just going to throw that out there and leave it there.
I mean, the shame is that public health their success is at the detriment to themselves, because when public health works, people say they don't need it anymore. So I'll leave it at that too, but I'm with you. And there are reasons that we support not just our own health, but the community's health as well, because it matters. But doing the best you can at home is also your best prevention for spreading it to others and staying home, right? Like we were just talking about this before, like people send their kids before they're healthy. And I get it, because we have no help. It's just us here. We don't have any family. I get it. And also like, I don't send my kids back to school if they're still sick or had just been sick, because there's other people who are going to get sick, and it would be nice to just like stop the spread, but here we are.
Yep. Okay. So someone is in a situation where their partner, their child, whoever is sick, they do not want to get sick, other than quarantining the sick person away, which obviously
I was going to say, go book a hotel.
Yeah, right? Oh my God. Obviously, if it's an adult who's sick, you could just be like, peace out, I'm gone. Yes. If it's a child, like, sorry, you can mask up, you can do all the things. But from a nutrition standpoint, potentially supplement standpoint, is there anything you're changing that you want to kind of bring attention to, recommending anything at all there?
I mean, personally, I go to bed earlier. If I know people are sick in the house and I'm able to, sleep is like your number one defense to illness. Obviously, outside of hygiene, this is a good time to be prioritizing nutrition. Obviously, if you could prioritize it the rest of the year, that's going to serve you. But like, this is not a time to be drinking. This is not a time to be having sweets outside of you utilizing it for training, right? Like really trying to focus on those protein and fiber rich foods, hydrating enough, doing all the things that we discussed, just to have that groundwork so that your body's not stressed from another angle as well. So that's really what I'm doing. So there is some research, like I said, on vitamin C. I don't love the airbornes of the world, the emergencies of the world, because it's really high dose. A lot of people have digestive distress from too much vitamin C. And so it's just not necessary. You can get vitamin C through fruits and vegetables. Like this time of year, especially, like grab some clementines, grab some oranges. Like they're really juice fresh and delicious right now. You could do juice. Like you can get your vitamin C enough from there. There's also products out there that I like that are whole food vitamin C. So they're not ascorbic acid. So they're better tolerated. They're at much lower doses too. Like instead of 500 or 1,000, they're like 50, and more than enough, especially if you're eating vitamin C rich foods. I like using, if my kids are like dying, I will use like a zinc lozenge, because it's only like 3 milligrams per lozenge, as opposed to like the 15 to 30 dose you might get in a capsule. So it's giving you that zinc without totally disrupting the copper, vitamin A, iron cycle. And then you could utilize things like elderberry. There is some research, because elderberry is rich in vitamin C and antioxidants. And so some people love making their own like elderberry syrups. I feel like I've got a lot of like crunchy friends up here in upstate New York who like make their own things.
Yeah,
I don't. I just like rely on my friends.
Give me the shortcuts.
I just rely on my friends. I'm like, gladly. Like fire cider is really big around here. It's like
fire cider.
Yeah, it's apple cider vinegar. It's like this tincture of apple cider vinegar. I think it's like oranges, lemon. I'd have to look. I've never made it. My friends make it.
Oh, people are making this. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like it's like a witch's brew. But there's certain things that you can make that would help with that as well. Probiotics.
Wait, why is a vinegar? What's kind of the reasoning behind a vinegar? Like that helps with immune function?
Apple cider vinegar does help with stomach acid support and also blood sugar support. So I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know what else is in the fire cider. I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
Because once again, my friends just like give it to me. I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay.
Sure, I'll take it.
What's the zinc lozenge or vitamin C brands that you tend to use that you like?
Vitamin C,
you want to
oh
call
my God,
anything
I think
out for
it's
people?
Perfect Supplements. They have an I'm saying this wrong. Acerola Cherry is I also think, oh my
This
God,
is
there's
just for
another brand.
kids or for anyone?
No, this is for adults, and it's
Okay.
powder. You can get a powder, so you can like taper it up or down for you. Like I just have it in my fridge. The zinc lozenge, there's a couple brands. I personally love, I think it's Beekeeper's brand. They have the bee propolis in there as well. So it's like 3 milligrams of zinc, bee propolis.
Okay.
There's no like sugar. I don't like anything that's sugar alcohols in it because it causes stomach issues. So like I would just look on the label and make sure it's not a sugar-free brand because like that's probably also wreaking havoc on your digestive tract.
So any kind of lower dose zinc lozenge type of situation. So I think really the messaging here is don't like suddenly start slamming vitamin C, which also can get in the way of training adaptations. Don't slam zinc because that can mess up your copper, which plays a role in iron metabolism, which, athletes are already struggling with. So let's not mess that up further.
And I think, I can understand, like, it's one of those things where you're like, I just need to prevent this. And it's just in order to prevent it. Yeah. Like you literally just need to do the basics, which is sometimes so annoying. And also you're just trying to give your body that little extra support. You don't need to go all ham just to give it support. If anything, like you said, it'll backfire. And like I said, a lot of people who overdo vitamin C, they don't feel bad, but they just have loose stool. And it's like, that's just because you don't feel bad doesn't mean it's not disruptive to your digestive tract immune function.
Yeah. Isn't also too much ascorbic acid disruptive to iron metabolism as well? Yeah. So that's the other thing to remember is that all these micronutrients and then synthetic vitamins can impact other things going on. It's all connected, remember? So it's not harmless. You're not just going to pee it out necessarily because like we do talk about water soluble vitamins. Oh, you just pee it out. But it can impact other metabolic pathways. And especially when things are messing with your iron metabolism and getting iron into ferritin storage, which already is such a struggle. We don't want to make that worse for you. So
you can't out supplement your diet and lifestyle, right? Like the supplements are truly meant to supplement, and there are obviously benefits to some, and it's just too much of a good thing, unfortunately, is not a good thing in many cases, especially when it comes to supplements.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So you tried to prevent it. You were sleeping, you were washing your hands, you were doing all the things, but your lovely child coughed in your mouth and now you're sick or whatever. I don't know.
The unfortunate truth.
The unfortunate, whatever. Yeah. So I think kind of this is the last stage of our discussion is what to do and what not to do if and when you get sick. Again, from this kind of diet, lifestyle, supplement perspective. And maybe we can even start with supplements because we were just talking about it. And I think I remember seeing some research about zinc can lessen the severity and length of an upper respiratory style illness.
So can vitamin C.
What? Zinc and vitamin C.
Yeah.
Yeah, so can vitamin C. Yeah. So, I don't remember offhand, the recommended dosages or do you have is there a general recommendation for how much to take or?
When it comes to I think I'd have to look. I honestly should have pulled out my notes for this. I forget what vitamin C is, but for zinc, you could probably for 2 weeks do 15 milligrams and it would not impact overall metabolism and health. Beyond that, I just don't think it's necessary for most people. And it's one of those things, like you said, it's just shortening the duration and severity. It's not eliminating the illness. It's not curing you from whatever the virus has to run its course. But continuing to take, or if you just got sick and weren't trying to prevent, taking vitamin C and zinc certainly could help. There's also immunoglobulins that can be helpful too. Unfortunately, once you have the sore throat and runny nose, you're already sick. It's once again, you can't do anything, but immunoglobulins can be really supportive of the immune function in your gut. So there's a product called Mega IgG. Colostrum actually falls into this category as well. This is a time where this could be supportive. I don't think people should be running out and getting colostrum 24/7, but where your immune system actually needs support during a respiratory illness could be supportive to have on hand. The immunoglobulins are safe for kids. I literally put half a scoop in both my kids' water bottles this time of year just to give their immune system just that little extra support. Whereas I could, for adults, you can take up to 3 times the dosage. It's not harmful, but can be just supportive. Once again, not going to cure you, but just going to give your body extra bodyguards to help get the virus out of there. So that's definitely something that can be supportive as well.
And then, kind of same with I mean, from a diet perspective, obviously when you're sick, you may not have the appetite, but we know you want to stay hydrated. You want to do your best to kind of get whatever you can in your body, soups and smoothies. And, you know, it might be easier to sip things depending on what's going on, what your symptoms are and all of that. But just do your best to still get like nutrient-rich foods into your body so that you're able to recover and feel okay and have good energy. Anything you'd add from kind of the diet standpoint there?
No, I think it's just important. I think for so long, especially women, we've been taught to like not listen to our body. So like listen to your body. And if it's telling you that you're not hungry, it's okay. Just eat something small and rest, right? Like this is not the time to say, well, I don't have an appetite, but I'm still going to train, right? No, it's probably, if you don't have an appetite, you're not eating, it's probably also means that your body needs rest and your appetite will come back. And that's usually a good sign that like you're on the mend and you're, you know, feeling better. So I also think just leaning into that. Teas are really helpful. There's a ton of herbal teas out there that can
and Manuka honey
too.
is great.
Yeah, that is
I really love Manuka honey, and just especially if you have a
honey
sore
in
throat.
general.
Yeah, honey in general.
They say that like honey is as effective as cough suppressants, if not more effective. And like we're all slamming Robitussin, but honey is just as effective, you know, like it's wild to me. That's all we have in our house. And we just like my oldest knows, he's like, I have a cough, I need honey. But like he also tries to milk that. And I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. And then, training, obviously, you know, trying to really lean into resting and getting better. And I think a lot of people either go back too soon or, you know, and they end up kind of prolonging the illness versus like if they just gave themselves a little bit more time, then they would get over it a lot faster. I know it's frustrating. It really sucks to take time off, especially when I know for myself, I'll like finally feel like I'm getting into a really good rhythm and I'm like, oh, I feel so great. I had this amazing run. Like I have so much energy. And then you're like, boom, sick. It's like, God damn.
Yeah, I think it's always that way.
And it's like, and then you get set back for like 2 weeks and then you're like finally returning to exercise, trying to be consistent. You feel like garbage because you're feeling out of shape. So I understand, like it really sucks when you feel like you can't be consistent, but you're not helping yourself when you're just rushing back into it. I mean, do we want to differentiate too between kind of different types of illnesses like bacterial versus, you know, viral or anything else here? Obviously, sometimes you just need medicine and you need antibiotics and whatever and get on with it.
Right. You cannot fight a bacterial infection. Like there's a reason that antibiotics exist.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing that you're going to do. Biocidin, there are some benefits. It's like an herbal product, like if you're having trouble fighting off, but it's not a replacement for antibiotics. I mean, if we can talk about stomach bugs, if you want.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Like that's a whole nother beast. And, you know, it depends on the stomach bug, but usually recovery is pretty quick. But I really hate, if I hear one more person tell me after a stomach bug to eat the brat diet, I will just like slap them. I'm like, that's so antiquated. I'm like, we don't need to eat the brat diet, especially because personally, bananas make my stomach upset. So I'm like, okay, that's probably the worst thing for me to consume, but okay. But really, it's just, the most important and crucial thing is like when you're around someone with a stomach bug is hygiene. Like that's the most important thing. There are times, norovirus is so incredibly contagious. There's only so much you can do. That's why you see outbreaks in cruise ships because there's just like no space or, you know, separation from people. You could take, like anytime my kids have had it, I preemptively will take activated charcoal. It likely won't prevent it, but it can help it run its course faster. There's also another, like I was reading up on some type of, I think it was grape extract or something that they've looked into, but really prevention is honestly just hygiene and crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
And then of course, rehydration, electrolytes, just
like
kind
do
of
it like little small sips with electrolytes or popsicles throughout the day when you're ill is the only thing that you can do. And then rehydration, like you said, right after. And then eating small, frequent meals until tolerance, making sure this is actually time for low fat, low fiber, because that's likely going to be more irritating to the gut. And then this might also be a time to utilize a probiotic when you're coming out of it, something like Espulardi or a spore-based probiotic like Megasporebiotic. Both can be really helpful because you basically just disrupted your whole microbiome. Like most people recover pretty well within a week or two. You'll notice in kids that appetite is low. That's okay. That's normal. That's them just listening to their body. It's fairly normal for them to go 2 weeks with a low appetite post stomach bug. But using kids, there's actually, it's called Floristore, is a really common store brand Espulardi that can be really helpful, either with traveler's diarrhea or a stomach bug. Adults can use Espulardi as well.
What about following antibiotic use in probiotics?
Oh,
want to address that?
I have a whole protocol on that.
Yeah, actually, let's briefly address that since it's related.
Yeah, so obviously, like I was on an antibiotic last year for an ear infection. There's nothing that I was going to do to get rid of the ear infection. I did not want to lose my hearing. So there's time and a place, and we know that antibiotic use can disrupt your gut microbiome for up to 2 years, which is really frustrating when you're like, but I've worked so hard on it. That doesn't mean your gut microbiome is constantly shifting and changing. So don't feel defeated. Just know it's going to need a little bit of extra support. This is where probiotics do really help. If you can take it while on the antibiotic separated by 2 hours, great. If you are hearing this and you just took an antibiotic and you had no idea because your doctor didn't tell you, that's fine. You're not behind. Just try to add in a probiotic. There's so many different strains out there. Like I said, Espulardi is really helpful in a lot of different cases and helps with recovery. So I love that one. It's usually generally well tolerated, but there's also a ton of different strains, lactobacillus strains, bifidobacteria strains, anything you can get your hand on, honestly, is a good start, not to mention probiotic rich foods, because you want to help re-inoculate the digestive tract. Fiber also will help with that because fibrous-rich foods help with prebiotics, which help to inoculate the gut. So that's really helpful. I really like butyric acid. It helps with butyrate production, which is a short-chain fatty acid that helps to nourish your entire gut. It's so gentle, and honestly, some people just see improvements with that alone. You could also do some type of gut lining support. So L-glutamine, or there's a product called GI Revive that I really like. It's got aloe in there, so it's super nourishing. So there's a ton of things that you can be doing on top of obviously literally everything we've talked about prior to this.
Yep.
But then we also know that some antibiotics can deplete vitamin B12 and folate, which is really fun. So if you're someone who eats meat, you'll be fine by getting that and leafy green vegetables for folate. If not, it might be a time for a multivitamin or a B complex if you're unable to get enough animal products in. Vitamin C and zinc can also help with the side effects of antibiotics. So same thing we were talking about before.
Any dosage for vitamin D? Because again, I feel they're just such big dosages out there. I
for vitamin C, you probably don't need more than 500 milligrams, which if you look at most dosages are 1,000 milligrams. Honestly, just eat oranges. Just if you can, get some
or bell peppers have some.
Yeah,
strawberries are in season, but
yeah, but I feel you could get frozen strawberries.
You get frozen strawberries.
Yeah, I think you can totally do it enough through food. Yeah, those are my major ones I use for post antibiotic.
Yeah, I think with probiotics, people get really overwhelmed because there are so many different kinds, and then people also get confused and think they should just take it year round, which you shouldn't do. So I think again, I think the big thing with supplementation always is being extremely intentional, and it should be very targeted. It should always have a purpose. And so in this case, it's post antibiotic, just giving your gut some love, or post stomach bug. So yeah, that's all good use of supplements. Anything else we want to kind of point out for when you're sick, or anything else you think we haven't addressed in this conversation?
I don't think so. I'm sure there's something that we missed, but I feel we were pretty thorough.
Yeah.
And like we said too, is you're going to get sick. It's going to happen. I think something that maybe we could talk about is if you're someone who continually and repeatedly gets sick, that's a sign from your body that it needs either more rest or more slack. You shouldn't 1 to 2 illnesses per year is pretty standard and typical for a healthy individual. Obviously, if you have some immune deficiency, that's going to put you at higher risk. If you're surrounded by young kids and it's your first time being exposed to all those illnesses, yes. But, we want to build resiliency throughout the rest of the year. And if you just feel you're constantly getting sick, I definitely would recommend reaching out to someone like a dietitian who can help you understand how to support the immune system globally, as opposed to just when you're getting sick. Because if you're constantly getting sick and you're just taking vitamin C or emergency or whatever, you're not fighting off what's actually happening. You shouldn't be sick multiple times, 4 to 5 times per year. And who wants to be? And that's not, for all of your listeners who are training, like that's really not fun because you're likely going to rub up against either that training cycle or a race, and then that's not worth it. So definitely working on that resiliency throughout the year is going to support you in getting less illnesses, but then also less severe and less frequent illnesses.
Yeah. And, getting lab work done and checking that out. Like if your white blood count is low, which we see with underfueling, and you're getting sick a bunch. I mean, there are all kinds of clues, right? I mean, I think you kind of have a sense of things if you're feeling off and things aren't good, but like we can get further evidence and looking at, are there different nutrient deficiencies? Like what's going on there? That's important. Actually, one thing I do want to address before we wrap things up is travel. Is there anything else? Like, because I know sometimes this is a little bit tangential because sometimes it's just more like feeling your best and not like fully getting sick, because the other aspect of sickness, which we also haven't touched on, is like foodborne illness, right? That happens. People, and actually I think we should talk about that because, that happens, especially if people are traveling to different countries, or maybe they're not being very careful with their own food prep at home. Not that we have to dig up our food, all our grad school food lectures and this and that, whatever. But, it does happen, and people do get how many athletes have I interviewed on this podcast who their worst race nutrition stories are like, I got a foodborne illness and blah, 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 I got food poisoning. So I actually do think we should address this. So maybe should we start with foodborne illness or kind of relate it to travel? I mean, I don't know where we want to start. What do you think?
I mean, I think knowing your risk is important. Like, where are you going to get foodborne illness from? So that's, some of that's completely out of your control. Like there's some recalls going on right now because I think there's just like lack of funding in that area right now. But then also, honestly, like I don't treat foodborne illness much different than like stomach bugs. Fairly similar treatment. I think it's just more like understanding the source, and then also understanding your immune status, right? Like there's a reason we tell pregnant women to not eat sushi and not have cold deli meat, because the risk of listeria and all salmonella and E. coli and all different foodborne illnesses is higher, not just because like that food tends to have more risk, but because that individual is more likely to be susceptible to that immune response. Like many people, yeah, like
I was a delinquent pregnant for a moment.
But I think it's also a risk and reward, right? So like if you I think about my sushi place and I'm like, I trust them. I've gone to them how many times? Like I would feel comfortable, but like from a general perspective, the problem is I don't know where most pregnant people are going to go get sushi. So I think that whole discussion applies to everybody. Understanding the food quality, like most restaurants have in the US, most restaurants have a food rating or like a restaurant rating, and that can also give you insight. You can look on reviews online if you're worried about going places. I don't want people to become hyper fixated because I also think that could become like disordered, but it's understanding like if that is a worry, like just knowing the source can be helpful. And then also having some support with you, like things like activated charcoal and Espularity are pretty easy to pack with you. Activated charcoal can help if you think you've been exposed, and Espularity can help with kind of recovering a little bit faster, especially if you have diarrhea. And just knowing that like, unfortunately, some things are just completely out of your control when it comes to foodborne illness.
Charcoal is like binding to things and then you excrete the stuff you don't want.
Yeah, I just heard one of my colleagues say it's like adsorbing. So like instead of absorbing something and taking it in, it's it's like basically like the charcoal is grabbing onto that bacteria and then like removing it from
It's kind of like how soluble fiber works with cholesterol. Yeah, activated charcoal isn't something I normally recommend, but I can see how that could be beneficial.
It shouldn't be something that you're using literally. It should be something that you literally have in your toolkit and you're using it once a year because you had foodborne illness or stomach bugs.
But you know what I'm talking about? It's because like, I don't know if it's like Hollywood or like, I don't know, I was in Portugal and they had like activated charcoal pita bread. And I'm like, why the fuck is this there? It's like, it's being used a little bit.
Yes.
Like, it's just
I feel like that's everything.
Yeah, I know.
When things get hyped up, it's like when CBD was having its time like a couple years ago, everything had CBD. And I'm like, I just want a drink. I don't want to have to look and see that
CBD is seltzers.
No, like I just want a drink. I don't need it. But I agree. And honestly, like going back to fiber fiber is nature's natural binder. Fiber actually helps to pull things out that aren't meant to be there in the body. So this once again comes back to like, what are your daily habits? And, I tell a lot of people, if you're going out to eat or you're traveling, like, I'm not saying don't enjoy the local food. I think you absolutely should, but there's no reason that you can't look for color on your plate and look for protein options so that you continue to feel your best, because that's the problem, right? It's like people want to continue to feel good when they're traveling. They don't want to be ill. They don't want to have to run to the bathroom. So it's also like just thinking about like, what's going to make me feel good right now? And if that's a baguette in France, live it up, man. But
that's a pretty low risk food. I mean, I think the things that come to mind is like when I was traveling around South America, oh my God, I got sick so many times because I was like going to all the street carts. I was like eating everything everywhere. Oh God, I was trying to eat some vegetables. I mean, I just like gave up on vegetables at a certain point because I just kept getting sick every time I'd eat them if they weren't cooked properly or whatever. I mean, there are going to be things that are out of your control. There are different foods and, things you're being exposed to when you're in a different country. So like your gut might kind of feel a little bit different.
Well, and I think it's dependent. Like, are you traveling for a race or are you traveling for like fun, right? Like, I think
either way, you don't want to like be sitting on the toilet.
No, right. Neither way. But I also think that like, are you like, what's your risk tolerance in that situation, right? Like, not to say that like you want to get sick when you're just having fun, but there's less on the line. Whereas like if you're traveling for an event or a race, if you can control more of the controllables so that you reduce risk of, think about like Olympians who have to travel everywhere for, or world championships for a lot of different sports. So I think it's also understanding your risk tolerance. And then once again, coming back to the basics, like, are you doing those the 90% of the rest of the year?
Yeah. Is there anything else just to wrap up the travel discussion for the actual travel day itself, when you're in the airport, on the plane, all that stuff? I personally am not masking anymore. I'm just like, whatever. I mean, we know that masks can be effective, but so I guess if you really, again, like, what's your risk tolerance? So if you're just like, I cannot risk getting sick, like maybe you do want to mask up, obviously hand washing, but is there anything else that you would just add to the mix with the travel day and staying healthy?
I mean, I'm also one of those people where I'm like, I'm just going to wash my hands and hope for the best. But for those who are more concerned, there are, like I already mentioned, that B propolis throat spray. I think Biocidin makes one of them as well. So throat sprays can really, really helpful. Nasal rinses, whether it's saline or an X-Clear, or there's a couple brands out there that can be helpful. And basically what you're trying to do is like anything that you are exposed to, you're trying to flush it out before it basically takes, up shop in your body. And then just hydrate. And, I think, unfortunately, the past couple of years have made us more fearful of public events and traveling because we're worried about spreading an illness. But we were doing it for years prior. And like, I was traveling a lot for work back then. And I got sick once every 4 times. Like, it was just bound to happen, but it didn't happen every time. If it happens every time, I think then that's once again a sign that like, right, exactly. Like, I don't think it's your seatmate's issue that you keep getting sick.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, it was the summer that COVID was like surging, and this was like 2 summers ago, and we all flew to, like, we go to Maui every year, and it's like the only trip that my family has been going on for the most part. So you don't travel very much. And so, it's a big deal, really excited for it. And my dad gets COVID, and then we all go down so fast. Like within a couple days of arriving, we're there for like 10 days. And it was just the most miserable trip. Like just having COVID on like a chair to sit there in the sun, just like dying or like sweating in the hotel room. So, I mean, obviously that sucks. And I really wish I'd masked up that time. But yeah, I mean, just do what you can, control what you can control. You're going to get sick at some point, and just,
there's only so much you can do. I think that like, we're obviously dietitians and we're biased in how you can like fuel your body. And also like, if it stresses you out to think about every last thing you can do to prevent illness, like that's counterproductive. A lot of it is out of our control, and it's really just what you're doing day to day is going to have such a bigger impact than what you're doing, on those days where you're exposed to illness or worried about illness.
Yeah. And I would also say, I mean, we have thrown out so much information today, and I always throw out so much information in my podcast. And if it's just like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed, this is so much info, like, you can jot some things down that are helpful. Like pick one thing, I'm sure that there are all kinds of things you can work on to improve, but maybe you pick one thing like, oh, wow, I really am not hydrating very well. I could totally do a better job. Or, oh, my fruit and veggie intake, like maybe I'm adding one more fruit and one more veggie per day and working on that. So you certainly, like, in listening to this or any episode, like, you don't need to do all the things. No. Like, that's going to not go so well for you. So just, pick one or two small things that you feel like you can achieve, and that's progress.
Right. Cool. And it's just going to keep adding to your health. It's not going to detract from it just because you only did one thing. Like, it moves the needle for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Laura, so much for all this. Where can everyone find you online if they want to give you a follow, work with you?
The Sassy Dietitian. I'm on Instagram, TikTok now, and
TikTok.
My website.
Okay.
I know. I'm trying to dive in there, see what I can learn.
Good luck.
But yes, honestly, I actually kind of like it because I feel like on TikTok you can be more opinionated with less like. Yeah, you have people like trolling you, but like Instagram, people are just so mean. And I'm like, I'm sorry that I said something that doesn't apply to your narrative, but you can actually just unfollow or leave, like, or just scroll past. I'm not sure how we got here, but
people really like to announce before they leave. Like, right, I got a podcast review or podcast comment lately. It was on, oh God, what was it? It was on we were talking about food dyes and seed oils. Yeah.
Oh no. Well, that's why.
and they were like, what a disgrace. I'm unfollow. I'm like, you can just leave. Like, you don't need to. But yeah, people like to let you know.
Just walk on by. I'm a disgrace. Yes, clearly. Yes. Okay. It's always the people with like Bible verses in their bios too. Literally always. And I'm like, did you learn nothing? Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. So Sassy Dietitian and all the places. And what's your website? If people want to
theSassyDietitian.com.
Oh,
same thing.
I love when branding is so consistent. That's what mine is too. So easy.
Because I can't remember anything, so everything has to be the same.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Laura. This was awesome. This is so fun, and hopefully it's helpful for everyone as we navigate the rest of this lovely winter season. Stay healthy, everybody.
Best of luck.
Have a good one.
Bye.
That's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you are enjoying this show, please make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss another episode. I'd also be grateful if you could share it on social media or with a friend who you think might enjoy it, and rate and review it wherever you get your shows, as it really helps my podcast be found and continue to grow. If you'd like to support my free content, you can check out my affiliate codes on the shop page of eatforendurance.com, and you can also buy my fueling-themed stickers and hats linked in the show notes on the shop page as well. And finally, I always love hearing from you guys, whether it's feedback or topic requests or just to say hi. Feel free to reach out, Claire at eatforendurance.com. All right, thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next time.